Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Do this. How's everybody doing this evening? Got real bad. Hey, lady. So, while we get in, folks are joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Thursday Talks at Heal Black Joy. How are you?
Hey, girl. I see
I was
my
just getting
people.
ready to get into this stuff.
Yes, ma'am. Hey,
I'm speaking.
Candace.
I wanna officially introduce you and just
Okay.
talk about what we're doing tonight. I think
Okay.
it's an important conversation to have. I'm waving to all my Heal Black Joy family and all the
Hey, guys.
the Empath Sacred Space family. Thank you guys for joining in with us. Welcome to Thursday Talks at Heal Black Joy. And in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about how to heal and recognize narcissistic behavior. I am Lola Troy, the host and curator of Heal Black Joy, the learning platform for our community to heal our Black joy with tangible and attainable programs for the mind, body, soul, relationships, and businesses. And today our guest is Minister Jaime Jacobs. Welcome,
Hello,
Jaime.
hello. I'm so happy to be here, and I see so many of my people. Hey, y'all. I'm glad you
Hey.
showed up. I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad you came. Good evening. I see everybody coming in. We are so glad you guys are here. As she said, my name is Jaime, and I am the tribe leader here at the Impact Sacred Space. And my daughter's here. Hey, Jayla. Hey,
That's
girl.
awesome.
Love to see you.
I want to really give you your props because I think it's important for people to know who you are and what you're about and where you come from. Jaime is a registered nurse. She's a PMH nurse practitioner student and minister living in Treasure Coast, Florida. So she's an East Coast girl like me. Jaime provides her tribe and the community at large with volunteerism, equity, and resources for healing and learning post-narcissistic abuse. And the crowd goes wild, as they say in the comments. Ah.
That's my girl Candace. Yes, I made sure that when we talked about this, that I made sure I reach out to everybody that really needed to hear this. My tribe, your tribe, friends, family, and people that I really talk to directly who need to hear this conversation.
And share it right now, you guys. Get on right now. Share this conversation with two
Yes.
or three of your good girlfriends that you know need to be hearing this conversation. Because
Yes.
we have done what? We have we literally have been dealing with narcissism for a long time, and we don't even realize it. Sometimes we don't even recognize it in ourselves. We will recognize it in others, but we don't recognize it in ourselves. And I think it's very important that we talk about that tonight. So as we're getting started, I think, this is a really big conversation. In our community, we don't want to talk about narcissism. We don't want to talk about abuse. We don't want to talk about mother wounds. We don't want to talk about those things that would shed light on the negative impact that it's had on our lives, right? We don't want to peel back those layers and discuss things that show us in a light where it's not necessarily the best thing for us, or show us in a light where we're showing up as negative, or we're exposing ourselves in a negative way, or we're exposing maybe a family member, or we're exposing a relationship that everybody thinks is couple goals, but they don't realize that
That part.
it ain't all that
Yes.
behind closed doors, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell me how you got started with helping people with narcissistic abuse and behavior. Like, what is your journey when it comes to narcissism and narcissistic abuse and behavior?
My journey started, like I think a lot of people's does, started with me not really knowing what's going on. Like I just didn't know what was going on. I'm like, why am I not connecting with you know, parents the right way? Why am I not connecting with friends properly? Why am I not connecting in relationships properly? Why is it that the people that are my family and are close to me and that I love and that should be loving me back are not reciprocating? What is going on? Why don't they have the capacity? What's up? You know
Mm.
what I mean? Like, that's where it starts.
Right.
And from
What's
there,
up?
you go from that space to going like, okay, something's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me because these people have friends, they have family, they have coworkers who love them.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's got to
Yeah.
be me, right? So this was my journey, going through these moments where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, but it has to be me. And then I kind of got into this situation where, because, and this is how it happens a lot of times, because you were raised in a certain situation, or you might have been raised by people who are narcissistic, you automatically lean into those relationships as an adult. Even if you think you don't, there are autonomic things that happen in our body, autonomic things that happen chemically within our brain that
Right.
change us. The gray matter in an empath's brain is completely different from a narcissist's brain. They are different. And this is coming from a medical aspect because I split both ends. The brain looks different. But
Okay.
also my journey has been going from being raised one way to being in relationships and then saying like, this isn't working for me. This is going to kill me. Like,
Mm.
what is going on? This is really going to take me out if I don't figure out what is what. And it
Right.
wasn't until I got into the second relationship which could have possibly been the third. I'm still mulling it over. But the second relationship with somebody where I was like, oh no, I can't mistake it. This person, I know what it is. I've seen it. I can't mistake it. It's worse than the last one.
Mm.
And that is when I knew. And I said, you know what? I've always been a person
We're
who fought
having
for the
some we're
underdog.
having some technical things. You're slowing down a little bit.
Uh-oh.
I don't know.
Am I with you guys? Am I back?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not clear though. You're a little fuzzy, so I'm just wondering, is it your
Maybe I need to move. If I need to move, I'll move.
Yeah, you might need to move just a little bit, but it's
Okay.
okay. We're gonna keep it rolling.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
did you recognize like it was a pattern? It's something that you think that when you got into that second or third relationship, you started noticing that you're either trauma bonding with people, or it's something that you're noticing this pattern of
My girl.
narcissistic behavior in relationship.
Yeah.
And it stems from what? What did that stem from for you?
I'm laughing right here because my girl Kari said it's clear. Like, we've had this conversation. It's clear. It comes from that pattern. It's when you get to the next person and you go, well, did you know him? Because you're doing what he did. How is that possible? How is it possible? And then really what you do is you start to reflect on yourself and you go, how is it possible that I ended up in this same financial space twice, back to back? How is it that I end up in back to back? How is it that I end up in the same emotional space back to back? And then you start to wonder, okay, well, it's not like that with everybody. Who is it with? And that's when you start to realize triggers. You start to realize, you know, when you feel a way around certain people, and that kind of starts to show you who's who and who's siphoning energy and who's putting in good things. But that's something you also have to be fearful of because of love bombing, right? You have to wonder what's accurate, what's not, what's real, and what's not. And I've gotten real good at that.
Right.
Yeah.
What is love bombing? I know you're speaking about love bombing. What exactly is that? What does love bombing look like for a person in a relationship?
Oh my gosh, the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing in the world. Love bombing for somebody in a relationship looks something like this. I meet this person, and when we meet, it's instant, right? It's like, oh my goodness, you are that other piece of me. You are that twin flame. You are that other half that I knew you were here. I knew you were out here. I found you, right? The day we get together, you're telling me everything that I've ever wanted to hear from a partner. Everything. Anything I wanted to hear about my intelligence, my beauty, my ambition, anything. You are right there with the words. You're right there with the time. You can text me back right away. You can call anytime. You're just there, right? You are absolutely bombing me with all good things, all love, everything I absolutely ever wanted from somebody. You're giving that to me, but it's for a short amount of time. And the minute you give it to me, the clock starts running. But I don't know that. I don't know that.
So the minute that the person is love bombing you, the clock starts running on what? The clock starts running on when the narcissism on step will begin?
No, ma'am. Here's the thing that we don't understand until after we get out of these relationships, that these people seek us out. We're like prey. So it starts the minute they meet us. The minute, let's say we're on live and we get on, and I'm like, oh, Lola, oh, she's beautiful. Oh, so I'm gonna tell her about how great her hair is, and she has beautiful lips, and her glasses, and her style. This is what I'm gonna tell her, right? Because these are things that everybody can see, but I'm gonna go like, I'm gonna make her feel so good and sweet. I'm gonna make her feel like you the only Lola out here.
Right.
There was no Lola. She was no showgirl. It was just you. Okay.
Right.
That's it. And you're going to feel like that. So what are you going to do? You're going to go out into the world. You're going to feel like that. You're going to tell family. You're going to tell friends. You're going to tell people at work. You're going to walk a little lighter. You're going to skip to a beat, your favorite song, just a little bit more jumping than usual, because everything is great, because you found that other half that's like, I'm here, boo. You are amazing, and that is it.
Right.
But the minute they start, the clock runs. Like that moment. Once they know that she likes this, he likes this, they like this, it starts right then.
Right.
It starts right there. You don't realize, but they'll sneak things in.
Drop down in the comments, you guys, if you've ever experienced someone love bombing you, if you've ever experienced narcissism in real time. I definitely have experienced that in relationship. I've definitely experienced that in friendship. I've definitely experienced that in the work area. In corporate America, you've got narcissistic bosses, people that, want you to, they will literally take credit for your work and abuse you in the process. But in front of people, they're like, they put on their game face and everything is, copacetic. Everything is just wonderful. But at the same time, behind closed doors, they're a nightmare to work with. They're people that literally abuse you verbally, emotionally, mentally, and you're going home just completely empty. You're pouring from an empty cup, right?
Yeah.
So what are some of those other characteristics that we need to try to recognize in our relationships, whether it's our boss, whether it's our friendships, whether it's our love relationships, whether it's our family members, because we don't want to talk about that. Because it can come from family members as well. Tell me what those characteristics look like. Give me like your top 5 characteristics of narcissism.
Gotcha. So that what you said about bosses and parentage go hand in hand, right? Because there's an escapism. There's somewhere for everybody to go at the end of the day, right? Even with parents. But they have that equivalent narcissism, like workplace people do, because they'll tell all their friends that you're wonderful, and they'll tell all their friends that you're talented, and they'll tell all the coworkers that, oh, this person, oh, they're always on the spot, they get it done. Oh, my daughter, she's so smart, she gets it done. But they don't tell you that, right? When you're in the office, they're like, I thought you were going to be able to get all of them done, and you didn't. So, and you feel like you done something wrong. It might not even be your
mastermind manipulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that is something that people deal with parents and with bosses. So some of the things that I listed here as red flags, because I wanted to be super prepared for you guys. Toxic communication. That is the number one. So if you feel in your chest that somebody is communicating with you in a toxic manner, they probably are. Because feelings are irrational, and that's just something that we have as human beings. So resentment. If you're around this person and you already feel resentment before they've started talking, probably have been gaslighting you. They're probably a narcissist. If you're in a relationship with somebody and they make your self-esteem feel lower, lesser, you don't feel as beautiful, your outer doesn't match your inner, you're not getting dressed anymore, you're not feeling positively about yourself, fear, straight up fear, like fear of going home, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of picking the wrong thing, fear of having too much of an opinion, even fear of just that person leaving, right? Because I mean, and that's and we have to acknowledge that, because we spend so much time building our relationships, getting to know people, getting into these situations where we don't want it to end, especially if we're an empath, we're builders. So we don't want these things to end. So we try exponentially to make them work. So some of the things that you'll see are financial abuse in two ways. So financial abuse in the way where either you find a narcissist that pays for everything, but in exchange, take your clothes off. Okay? Be ready.
Everything has a price tag.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go out to a lovely dinner. We're gonna have a lovely show. We're gonna ride in the nicest car. I'm gonna buy you a beautiful dress. You're gonna have the best shoes on. I'm gonna walk around with you. I'm gonna hold your hand. I'm gonna tell everybody, look at her. Look at her walk. I'm gonna walk behind you. I'm gonna put my jacket in the rain for you. As soon as we get to the car, I don't know your name. You're not a person. You're a thing. I'm gonna fondle you. I'm gonna tell you, oh, be ready. Now I'm a different person. Now I'm my overt, because I've paid for you. I paid for this. That's financial abuse, right? Because in your heart, you're thinking this person loves you. They're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. But then you don't realize, oh, I'm a prostitute. Like, in a way, it makes you feel like a prostitute. But if you were to say that to them, no, that's ridiculous. They make it seem like, oh, well, you love me, right? We're in a relationship. You love me, but you don't feel that way. And that's another thing that is a major thing that you have to watch out for with narcissism, is the fact that you're confused. Like, if you don't know whether or not, do I love them? Do they love me? Are they, like, you shouldn't be confused.
Yeah, love is not confusion.
Absolutely
love is not confusion. So you say confusion, you say financial abuse. What are some of the other things that you would talk about?
Oh my goodness. So social media, sexual abuse. So their social media is debilitating within itself. It will cause a relationship to, deteriorate and crumble. You will be a shell of yourself, because if you actually, and I'm an advocate for this, like, I don't tell everybody to do this, but I will go in your phone. I will go on your phone. Like, and it might not be the best thing to do, but I've done it. And I've gone into the phone of somebody that I've been like, okay, I think this person is narcissistic. Let me check. And I've done it to people that I haven't even been that serious about, just because I'm like, let me confirm what it is that I think. They'll be on 6 or 7 dating apps. Some of them with a picture, some of them without one. The number of women or men that they're communicating with is astronomical. Okay. You think 20 people on a dating app, no. I'm talking 60, 70, 80, because it's about attention, and it's about the sex, and it's about getting those prime aims met. That's it. They don't even think about you. They don't even consider you in that process. It's whatever. It's just whatever. So the dating apps are an issue. Social media is an issue. So you can be in a relationship with somebody for 4 or 5 years. I personally know people who are in relationships with people who they have 2 or 3 children, and they appear nowhere on their social media. That is a telltale sign. That is a serious red flag. If you know that somebody has a family, or that you have a family with this person and it looks like they are single as a dollar bill, that's something telltale sign always. And the thing that you have to watch out for is the friends and family when it comes to social media, when it comes to the dating apps, when it comes to specifically things like OnlyFans. People are out here, okay? It is not safe for you to be having sex with a narcissist. It is just not. And I hate to say it like that, but it's not safe for your body. It's not safe for your well-being, and that's in a spiritual realm. And it's also in a medical realm. STDs are rampant. They do not protect themselves when they have sex. There's only one type of narcissist that will protect themselves, and it's because they consider sex nasty. But they do it in order to pull the ruse, right? To pull the wool over your eyes. They'll do it, but they really don't like you. They find you disgusting. Those are the only people who really wear protection during sex. The rest of them, they won't. They just won't, because a lot of them use babies, STDs, and things like that to entrap you. So it is their intention to not wear a condom. And a lot of times women will be thinking, oh, they're in love with me. He's love bombing me. He's doing all these things. And he said he wants to have a baby too. Oh, this is my husband. This is the guy. He wants everything. He wants a baby. He wants a family. He wants all these things. But really, he just wants these things so that he can trap you. So that he can do this forever to you. Or that so she can trap you. And she can do these things forever to you, because a baby is forever. And a lot of times they'll meet you and lean on that right away. Another thing to watch out for is how they speak about their family and friends right away. If they lead with stories about my mom, my dad, this is what they did to me, this is how they abused me. It's people who have been abused verbally. It takes a little bit of time to kind of let your guard down enough to tell people, this is what's going on with me. This has been my past. Not them. Not them. They're going to come out the gate with that, because they want you to be like, oh man, let me protect them. Let me show them that I love them. Let me show that I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm loyal, because they love that word. Be loyal. Let me show you that I'm loyal. And so we think like, oh, I gotta be loyal. He's been so hurt. She's been so hurt. I gotta be there. I can't leave. I gotta stay. Until they have gotten to the point where they're like, got it. It's almost what they say. Gotcha.
Right. So I want to take a turn for a second, because I think that type of narcissistic abuse is something that is more prevalent. That's something that is easier to identify. Black women in particular this week, we learned last week, we have been dealing with mother wounds.
Yes.
In particular. And our expert, Jennifer, that came on last week, Black Mother Wound, stated that we never had autonomy over our bodies, our emotions, etc.
No.
Do you believe that we struggle as Black women with narcissistic behavior?
And for a lot of reasons. It's exactly, and I listened to that live also. It was really good. For exactly what she said.
You're breaking up.
Having our body and not being able to choose who we have as partners is definitely a major thing. Like she said, I think another big piece of that is kind of like this, and I don't even know where it comes from, this stand by your man type, whatever that is. Like, I don't even know where that comes from.
I mean, I'm talking about in the sense of ourselves. Like, do we need to start recognizing the behavior in ourselves because of not having autonomy with our emotions, stemming from relationships, toxic behavior in our family. So because we didn't have autonomy over our emotions, and we didn't have autonomy over our bodies, what happens is when we become parents, or when we get in relationships, or when we go to work, or when we're in friendships, we become the bully because we've been bullied, right?
Right.
So a lot of times you've got angry Black, we've got the angry Black woman syndrome, and now we've turned the gun on everybody else because the gun was turned on us. We were never able to express our feelings. We were never able to say the things that we wanted to say. So now in conversations, we bully people in conversations. We bully people into loving us. We bully our children because we're mad about certain things, right? So can you speak to that, the narcissistic behavior that we have inside of ourselves, not just the people that we're in relationship with?
I think that's a passed down trait from just negative ways of parenting. Honestly, I think that parents before us, I give them a 50% grace and 50% get out of here, because half of the grace for me is like, okay, I can see that you've had to go through. I can see that you had to endure. I can see that a part of, especially for people who have older parents like myself, I can see that a lot of what you've done, a lot of what you said has been survival, right? It's been making sure that you can be here for me and making sure that you can live and work and prosper and be a part of and assimilate into a community that doesn't really want you, right? So I understand all of those aspects, but what I don't understand, and this is where they they miss me, is when you get your own children, right? Both my parents, Nars. When you get, and I have conversations with my dad sometimes that get ugly, and not because I am falling victim to him, but more so because I'm standing up for myself so fiercely that it's going to get ugly, because you're not going to relinquish and be accountable. And when I had my own children, I had to be accountable. I had to be able to say, I apologize. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
What I think what happens is the generation before us, they were not held accountable. I think now we have words to put with it, like we know what it is. Totally. Before, we didn't know what narcissism was, right? We didn't know what a mother wound was. We didn't know what these things were, because we didn't have words, we didn't have the expression to, or the medical terminology
absolutely
that identifies what those things are. Yeah. Now that we can put words to it, and now we can identify and say, hey, you know what, this is narcissism, or hey, this is a mother wound, or hey, this is a father wound. That generation doesn't want to be held accountable, right? It's just like, oh, that's just how we were. That's just, my parents were like that. That's how they raised us. That's how we raised you. But that doesn't work with the children of today, right?
And let me tell you why it doesn't work. What you mentioned about your baby last time, that's why it doesn't work. But also, it doesn't work because those narcissistic tendencies will have them judging you for the stuff that they did to make you like that. And that is where I draw the line. That's where I draw it, because I said, okay, now wait a minute. I can understand you having to survive and you rearing me because you had to survive, but I'm gonna need you to at least know that's what you did. Like, I'm gonna need you to at least understand that's what you did, for you to be able to help me out as a parent, for you to be able to stand alongside of me. I was watching an episode of Love and Hip Hop the other day with one of the rappers on there. Her mom would not admit, she would not admit all the trauma and the things they went through. Like, she just wouldn't, until that girl had to become a child again. She literally was breaking down, not breathing, snot flying, for her mom to soften enough to say, I remember. And those are the only words that she said. And for her to say those two words, her baby she couldn't hold it together, because it was like, why did it take so long? Why did it take forever for you to acknowledge something that you're very much aware of? And that's where it does something to me. And that's where I have to say, okay, I'll give them 50% grace and 50% get out of here, because you do recognize it, because those are the things that they gaslight you about.
Right. I think this is very, very key in both of our tribes, in the sense that we're both very passionate about healing Black women. We're very, very passionate about shedding light on situations that we want our sisters to heal from, right?
Yes.
And I think when you have to work from the inside out. Like if we're talking about community, yeah, my grandfather always said, you know, when you're pointing the finger at someone, you're pointing three fingers back at yourself. So it starts with ourselves, right? So with that being said, if you're recognizing that you have this bitter syndrome and you're not taking accountability for your behavior and you're acting like a child as an adult, you're having an adult temper tantrum with people, or you're bullying people and you're just like, oh, that's just my way. This is how I get things done. That's how I get people to respond to me. What are some things, or what are some practices that you utilize with the people that you coach or the people that you minister to help them become better in practicing better behavior when it comes to that? What are some things that you could suggest to our sisters? Hey, you know, this is not working. This is not going to get you anywhere. You're going to hit a brick wall at some point. So what are some things that you can suggest to help put in practice for them?
What I lead with brute, like truth and honesty. A lot of people come to me, and I also am a Simbis facilitator. So I talk to a lot of people that are in relationships a lot. And what I give is brute honesty. I say, well, what are the responses that you're getting when you behave like that? I just ask the question because sometimes people don't, I've noticed that people just don't front other people. They just don't. They just let them continue. And I feel like that's how we get into the relationships with these grown children, because nobody has stopped them before they got 20, 30, 40 and said, hey, you know, by what you're putting out, do you like what you get back? What are you getting back? So 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you, well, the reason I did this is because so they're agitated already. And it's like, okay, let's focus on keeping you from being agitated. What would keep you from being agitated? If you were able to communicate this, like, would you still be agitated in the same fashion? Let's make steps so that you can be aware of how you're talking to people. That's a number one, because it's not always what you say, it's the way that you're communicating it.
It's tone. It's tone. Yes. Specifically Black women. I think we model a lot of behavior from our parents and our grandmothers and our mothers. And the tone of the 70s and the 80s, you know, it was survival when it came to them, right? So their tone with us was never soft or gentle or from a place of, I need you to understand this. It was, you're going to do what I say. You know that phrase, like, do what I say, or you keep your mouth closed and you listen to what I have to say, kind of thing. Like, you don't have a voice, really.
Yeah.
So you don't have autonomy there. With that being said, it's like, how can we turn that back, where we're dialing it back, where women are understanding that, you know, you attract more bees with honey than you do vinegar. My grandmother used to say that all the time.
Always.
So we got to get into a place where we recognize our own softness, right? Yeah, we're hard. We have this hard exterior or this hard shell because we want to protect ourselves. But at the same time, like you said, that is not getting us anywhere. That is not moving or making us progress forward, right? So with that being said, it's like, we've got to soften ourselves. We got to work from the inner out. And I think a lot of times we're so geared to point the finger at somebody else, not recognizing, how did you get in a relationship with a narcissist?
My sister the other day was talking to me about something similar. And that's a double-edged sword. For one, it's our spaces, right? So the empath sacred space is a sacred space for a reason, right? Because I'll boot you up out of there. I block people all day long. That my block thumb is strong, because if you don't belong there, you don't belong there with the rest of my people, because I don't like what you're saying, right? So it's about your spaces. Every space is not for you. And that's one thing that we have to understand. Every space is not for us, but the ones that are will allow us the softness. They will allow us the space to be vulnerable, because vulnerability is a two-edged sword. I can say today, I'm going to try to be vulnerable. I'm going to say this, but based on the response, it might impact if I'm vulnerable with those people again. right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make sure that you're in spaces where people are leaving room for you to do that.
Right.
And
It's about
sometimes,
safety.
yeah.
Softness comes from safety.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think about my space when I am in a place of safety where I know that there's a safe space for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem being vulnerable. I have no problem with my wall being let down because I feel like I'm in a safe space. So I can be myself. I can be soft. But if I'm in a place where I don't feel necessarily safe mentally, emotionally, physically,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm putting on all my gear.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm putting on all my gear. But I think what happens is we've gotta lead from a place of safety. We've got to
Mm-hmm.
lead. We got to have these conversations where our sisters feel safe enough to come in and comment and say, hey, I'm being triggered by something that you're saying right now. Last week we stopped. It was such a powerful moment. We stopped and Jennifer allowed us to just take in some breaths because people were being triggered because they have mother wounds. There's
Yeah.
somebody in the comments that says my mom still treats me like I don't have a voice.
I know. I just
We've
wrote to her.
got
I
to
said, T,
have
we hear
these
you.
we got to have these conversations where people
Yeah.
feel like it's okay to come in and share and say these things, and we're here for you. We're here. We're going to back you. We're going to hold you in our arms and say, sister, it's all right. I experienced that too.
Yeah.
I understand where you are.
Yeah.
I understand when somebody is not giving you validation. I understand when you're in a scenario where people are talking to you and you feel like you're not being heard, or you feel like your presence is not validated, right? And with Black women, that's at home, that's in work, that's, out in the street. People are just like, have you ever just, this is one thing that just gets my goat. And I know I'm totally getting off subject, but it's still about validation. You could be walking down the street and let's say a white counterpart is walking. Why is it in us to move out of the way for them to keep walking?
I don't do that no more.
I don't do it anymore either, but
Go in the street.
that stems from us not feeling worthy of being on the sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah.
That stems from us not feeling worthy of our space is still
On a real fine tip, that comes from people showing you throughout your life that when a white person comes, you get out the way because you in their way. They got somewhere to be. They doing something important. Don't get in their way. Get out their way.
But it also comes from, I was watching an interview the other day with Gabrielle Union, and she was talking about the Met Gala, and she said she remembers she really enjoyed this Met Gala because in this particular Met Gala, the kids that are my daughter's generation at the Met Gala, they just took up space.
Mm-hmm.
They were there in the space of, I'm here. Yeah. We are the culture. Get on or get missing kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas before, generations before my generation, she felt ducked down. Like she would go and she would be like, oh, hey, how are you? Mm-hmm. Because we were reared in a generation where our value and our worth was not the value and worth of our white counterparts. So that's why we were moving out the way on the sidewalk. And it wasn't this generation, they take up space in the room. Yeah. That's why I can't use the same mother wounds that I got on my daughter, because my daughter's looking at me like, Ma, I'm not buying that. Like, that's not nice. You can't bully me into doing something just because you think I should do it. Right?
I think I want to hope. I want to hope because I'm seeing it slowly. Like, I want to hope that people are just getting on board and that they're recognizing when people are doing it, when people are using things like tears or things like gaslighting or your appeal or your age, where it's like, okay, that's not enough. I think people are kind of like realizing and coming up to this level where, okay, that's manipulative. or this might
We've
not
got
be.
words for it now. We know what
Yeah.
manipulation is.
Yeah.
We know what gaslighting is. We know what love bombing is. We didn't have the verbiage before. We didn't recognize. We saw it. We're like, okay, something about this is not right. This guy's a little off. He's a little strange. He's saying all the right things, but something in my gut is telling me, my inner compass is telling me that it's not right. Right?
Yeah.
Now we know, we have the word for it. That's love bombing. Or when
I think it
somebody's
goes back to that survival too. I think it goes back to that survival. I've talked to a lot of older Black women who have been very aware of like side babies and side women and just all type of stuff. And they'll tell you in a way where it's like, oh, but you know, they'll go back to the finances, right? They'll be like, oh, you know, don't do this. That man gonna be a man, or the man back in the day, but the finances, you know, you don't want to be out. You know, let that man take care of whatever. And so I'm so confused. I even had somebody very close to me, like an aunt, the other day, say this about my niece, well, my cousin, her daughter, and she was like, well, you know, he's a good guy. You know, he do his thing, but he got to come home. Like, those were her literal words. And I was looking at my auntie like, are you all right? That's your daughter. That's weird. But in your mind, you're thinking back there where you're like, oh, survival. And I'm like, half the women out here making more bread than the men. What are you talking about?
Somebody in the comments is asking, okay, can you define what love bombing is more? Define it.
So love bombing, we talked about this a little bit before. Love bombing is when you first get into that relationship, you feel like that's your soulmate, you guys are on it, they're telling you all the things you want to hear, they got all the time in the world for you, they're texting, they're calling, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life, and you're it. They have bombed you with all the love you could ever want. But what we said before was that's on a clock. So as the minute they start, that's on a clock. The minute they see you're hooked to it, it stops. Right then.
Right then and there.
Yeah.
Jaime, this conversation has been so good. I want to talk about what you're doing in this space with your clients and with the people that you work with. Tell Heal Black Joy what you're doing, what your social media is, what you're working on. I think this is a necessary conversation. We're going to have to come back for a part two, because I think people need to recognize what narcissistic behavior is in others, in relationships, within ourselves, you know, us bullying folk. We need to understand that from a very deep. We need to start peeling back these layers. So what are you working on to help heal your tribe? I love what you do. I'm such a fan of yours. I honor you for coming on tonight. Talk to us about what you're doing in your space.
So thank you again for the opportunity. We do have to do a part two. So in my space, I have the Empath Sacred Space. I have healwithjaime.com. And on October 1st, thank you, Jesus. On October 1st, we will be moving into our headquarters for Heal with Jaime.
Yay.
And we are starting Sona Brunch Club. You can find Sona Brunch Club on my website and also on Instagram. Sona being survivors of narcissistic abuse. Sona. So, and we are a brunch club. We are a monthly brunch club, and we have memberships within the memberships. You get ebooks, printables, brunches. We have fat brunches, which are faithful, available, teachable brunches, where you come and you get the word, you get ways to do the pivot, which is my new program, 30 days out of narcissistic abuse. So we are throwing workbooks, we're throwing ebooks, we're throwing events and everything at narcissism and narcissistic abuse, because we realize that the aftermath of that healing is not being isolated and being alone. It is building and developing yourself. It is building and developing your finances again. So we are going to step by step take you on this journey with Sona Brunch Club to get that done. And our office is located in downtown Fort Pierce at the beach, y'all. Yeah.
I think this conversation has been so key to what we're doing. We've been going on this. I know it's been kind of heavy, you guys. The last couple of weeks, we went from boundaries. We talked about self-preservation. We talked about mother wounds. We talked about narcissistic behavior. And for the month of October, we're going to be talking about mindset, financial mindset, physical mindset, spiritual mindset. Because we want to not talk about and just stay in the trauma. We want to talk about how do you heal from this trauma and how do you get your mind, because Heal Black Joy was basically birthed out of, I understood that there was a thing that we want to manifest. We want to do things. We want to get and accomplish our goals.
But how?
But there's some things that we have not tapped into, and that's that trauma from our childhood that we have not dealt with. We try to keep going, and we're like in quicksand. We just get stuck there, right?
Yeah.
We have not healed that trauma. In order, you want to move forward, but you gotta call a thing a thing. You gotta heal that thing before you actually can walk out manifestation. I believe true healing and true manifestation comes from you being healed from the things of your past and be able to have a clear mind, a clear spirit, and then you're able to walk through, and then you can get downloads where you're supposed to be doing things creatively and doing things in the community and in the marketplace. So that is what Heal Black Joy is about. Please, 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 if you have not gone to follow the Empath Sacred Space, Jaime has put her information in the chat. Please go follow her now.
Put my number there for the pivot. So
she put her number there for the pivot.
Starts October 1st. All right. 30 days.
It starts October 1st. So we're really cool about that. I also want to say, click the link in our bio to sign up for all Heal Black Joy content. If you want to be the first to know about webinars, live group coaching, workbooks, and more. Also, click like and share. Go follow us at Heal Black Joy here on Instagram, Facebook, as well as TikTok. I'm starting a private group on Facebook because we're getting ready to dive into mindset in the next quarter. And I'm really, really excited about that. I thank you, my sister, for coming on and talking to us about narcissistic behavior and abuse. I wish you well on your journey, and you guys go follow her right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a wonderful evening.